Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Radhana Ranjana Yashodanandana Radhana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Rajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Jagannath Jaya Maradeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Goranika Jaya Goranika Jaya Goranika Jaya Goranika Jaya Jagadguru Prabhupada Jaya Jagadguru Prabhupada Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Jaya Jaya Gurudev Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Very sweet.
Jaya.
Once again, thank you, everybody, and welcome to the Sunday program, the Dashera Sunday program. I'd like to quickly introduce our today's speaker, who's with us for the first time today on our forum. His Grace Pariksit Prabhuji Ki Jai. Also known as Dr. Patrick Godwin, was born in Ghana, West Africa. Prabhuji graduated from Cape Coast University in Ghana, 1977, with Bachelor's in Science, Chemistry degree, and a diploma in education with emphasis on teaching chemistry and mathematics. He came to America in 1978 for a graduate school in Massachusetts, where he completed a PhD program in organic photochemistry in 1984. Joined ISKCON in 1991 after hearing the lectures given by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj. He got his first initiation in 1994, second in 1996. Prabhuji and his wife, Anusuya Mataji, who is currently the temple president of ISKCON Harrisburg in Pennsylvania, were personal servants of Maharaj in Gita Nagari from 1995 to 1997. He also managed Maharaj's audio ministry, converting and editing over 860 lectures from cassette tapes to computer. Then he sent the audio files to bhaktiswami.com, where they're available currently. Again, the website is btswami.com. He's also an accomplished musician with 3 Krishna conscious record albums to date. He was a chemistry professor in universities in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and finally in Pennsylvania. And Last, he retired from teaching in 2018 at the Penn State University in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. And currently he preaches at a number of ISKCON centers in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and also does Bhakti Vriksha courses through teleconference. He's actively involved in music composition, arrangement, and recording of Indian and Western fusion devotional music and meditational, relaxational instruments. So very, very highly gifted by Krishna in so many areas and serving Srila Prabhupada's movement. So let us all unmute yourself and give a warm welcome by loudly chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare
Ram,
Ram Ram
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Thank you for joining us today.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Ashtottara Sata Sri Maharaj's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Ashtottara Sata Sri Maharaj's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। नवद्वीप धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय। गंगा माई की जय। जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hare Hare Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the glories feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glory Shri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tere Swami Nityananda. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddhartha Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti. Narayana Namaskricha Narom Chevam Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Bhuto Jayam Mudirayat Nasta Prayesva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Good evening to everyone. The text today or this evening is from Srimad Bhagavatam. You may see on the screen. Canto 2, chapter 7, Canto 2, chapter 7, text 23. Atma pasada sumukha kalaya kalisha Ikshvaku vamsa avatirya guru nedishe Tistan vanamsa dat daitanuja abhishesha Yasmin virudya dasa kandara atim achat. Word for word translation. Asmat, unto us, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant. Get this here. Okay. Prasada, causeless mercy. Sumukha, so inclined. Kalaya, with his plenary expansions. Kaleshaha, the Lord of all potencies. Ikshvaku, Maharaj Ikshvaku, in the dynasty of the sun. Vanshe, family. Avatiriya, by descending in. Guruho, of the father or spiritual master. Nideshe, under the order of. Tishtan, being situated in. Vanam, in the forest. Sadaita Anujaha, along with his wife and younger brother. Avishesha, Avivesha entered, Yasmin, unto whom Virudhya, being rebellious, Dashakandara, Ravan, who had 10 heads, Arting, great distress, Archat, achieved. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Due to His causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with His plenary expansions, appeared in the family of Maharaj Ikwaku as the Lord of His internal potency, Sita. Under the order of his father, Maharaj Dasharath, he entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother. Ravan, who was very materially powerful, with 10 heads on his shoulders, committed a great offense against him and was thus ultimately vanquished. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his brothers, namely Bharat, Lakshman, and Shatrughna, are his plenary expansions. All 4 brothers are Vishnu Tattva and were never ordinary human beings. There are many unscrupulous and ignorant commentators on Ramayana who present the younger brothers of Lord Ramachandra as ordinary living entities. But here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the most authentic scripture on the science of Godhead, it is clearly stated that his brothers were his plenary expansions. Originally, Lord Ramachandra is the incarnation of Vasudev, Lakshman is the incarnation of Sankarshan, Bharat is the incarnation of Pradyumna, and Shatrughna is the incarnation of Aniruddha, expansions of the personality of Godhead. Lakshmiji Sita is the internal potency of the Lord and is neither an ordinary woman nor the external potency incarnation of Durga. Durga is the external potency of the Lord, and she is associated with Lord Shiva. As stated in Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 4, text 7, the Lord appears when there are discrepancies in the discharge of factual religion. Lord Ramachandra also appeared under the same circumstances, accompanied by his brothers, who are expansions of the Lord's internal potency, and by Lakshmiji Sita Devi. Lord Ramachandra was ordered by his father, Maharaj Dasharath, to leave home for the forest under awkward circumstances. And the Lord, as the ideal son of his father, carried out the order even on the occasion of his being declared the king of Ayodhya. One of his younger brothers, Lakshmanji, desired to go with him, and also his eternal wife, Sitaji, desired to go with them. The Lord agreed to both of them, and all together they entered the Dandakaranya forest to live there for 14 years. During their stay in the forest, there was some quarrel between Ramachandra and Ravan, and the latter kidnapped the Lord's wife, Sita. The quarrel ended in the vanquishing of the greatly powerful Ravana, along with all his kingdom and family. Sita is Lakshmiji, or the goddess for fortune, but she is never to be enjoyed by any living being. She is meant for being worshipped by the living being along with her husband, Sri Ramachandra. A materialistic man like Ravan does not understand this great truth, but on the contrary, he wants to snatch Sita Devi from the custody of Ram and thus incurs great miseries. The materialists who are after opulence and material prosperity may take lessons from the Ramayana that the policy of exploiting the nature of the Lord without acknowledging the supremacy of the Supreme Lord is the policy of Ravan. Ravan was very advanced materially, so much so that he turned his kingdom, Lanka, into pure gold or full material wealth. Because he did not recognize the supremacy of Lord Ramachandra and defied him by stealing his wife Sita, Ravan was killed and all his opulence and power were destroyed. Lord Ramachandra is a full incarnation with 6 opulences in full, and he is therefore mentioned in this verse as Kalesha, the master of all opulence. Oma Ginatimirandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Ummilitam Jena Taspai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Vestam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Pandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaisnavam Cha Sri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhibhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Goyachise Namaha Ananda Nilamaya Vigrahaya Himabhya Divacha Vishandaraya Tasmi Mahaprem Raspanaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Hare Krishna. So the text again, this time I'll read just the translation so you can go up a little bit if you don't mind. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his plenary extensions, appeared in the family of Maharaj Ikshvaku as the Lord of his eternal potency Sita. Under the order of his father, Maharaj Dasharat, he entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother. Ravan, who was very materially powerful, with 10 heads on his shoulders, committed a great offense against him and was ultimately vanquished. Hare Krishna. So, today, from my understanding, is the wonderful celebration Vijayotsava, where truth triumphed over falsehood or evil. Lord Ram represents truth. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's actually the absolute truth. We have our truth. The Lord is absolute truth. There is no truth at his level or beyond his level. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Krishna is a sum total, and the expansions, sometimes for the gunas, sometimes for leelas, they all come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And not to make it too wide, we want to, this time, focus on Lord Ram. Now, Lord Ram, his pastime is written by Valmiki Muni in Ramayana. Ramayana is well known, especially in India, not so much in the West. By Srila Prabhupada's mercy, now Ramayana is known in the West by a group, only a small group of people who are devotees of the Lord. So much can be learned from reading and discussing Ramayana. The end of the story, the pastime, is that Ravan, who represented evil, was vanquished by Lord Ram who represented good, the ultimate good. So, in so many words, we can say that by the mercy of the Lord, since the Lord owns everything, material and spiritual, whatever the demons do, they would be able to be around for a while, but in the end, the Lord actually dictates what happens. As Brahma and Lord Brahma says, Sarva Karana Karanam. The Lord is the cause of all causes. In the beginning, he said, Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the Ishvara Parama, the Maha, the greatest controller. So there are other controllers like demigods, but the Lord is the supreme controller. And his body is like full of knowledge, eternal, and always happy. Bliss. The dictionary says bliss is the highest happiness you can have. That's bliss. And so, obviously, in the spiritual world, highest happiness in all varieties are going on. Don't we wish we were there? At some point, the Prabhupada will lead us there. So, the victory of Lord Ram over Ravana tells us that the Lord will always protect those who are connected with him. Not only Sita, but all of us. The Lord is that compassionate. So, a little bit in this particular translation, this Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 23. So the Lord appeared in the dynasty of the sun. His internal potency, Sita, was with him. His father, Maharaj Dasharat, gave birth to 3 others who represent the Chaturvyuha, Vasudev, Aniruddha, Sankarshan, and Pradyumna. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes them wonderfully. So Lord Ram himself is a plenary expansion for Vasudev, and then Bharat, Lakshman, and Shatrugna, the other 3, Aniruddha, Sankarshan, and Pradyumna. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His brothers are his plenary expansions. There are people who come up with all kinds of commentary, and they're looking at Lord Ram as an ordinary living entity. Some people look at Krishna as an ordinary living entity. And he says in Bhagavad-Gita, fools mock at me, fools deride me. They don't know that I'm actually the Lord of all that be. Now, the incarnation of a Supreme Personality of Godhead as Lord Ram, in essence, is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The expansions are the same. It's not like they lose something because they're expansion. The only thing that happens is the activities that Krishna performs, that's a sum total. Whereas the expansions perform certain activities. For example, the Lord in the heart, Paramatma. He doesn't dance with the gopis, as we well know. There's no pastime involving him like that. So Lord Ram is an ideal personality for us. How to lead the proper Grihastha life, how to be the ideal king. So much is there we can learn from Lord Ram. And as a Kshatriya, because he became king, first he was prince, with his other 3 brothers, and then Dasharat was going to crown him as he was a crown prince, he was going to be the king, but due to an unfortunate situation, envy from the maidservant of Kaikeyi, one of the queens, she convinced Kaikeyi to go after Dasharat. At the time that Ram was going to be crowned king, she was going to make good on boons that were long standing, that Maharaj Dasharat said, whatever you want, whenever you want to tell about the boons. And one of the boons said, that Kaikeyi told him was that Bharat should be king, and that Lord Ram should leave and go to the forest. Of course, Dasharat was very heartbroken. He never actually recovered from it. He left the body. But when Lord Ram heard that, Lord Ram was an example of greatness. Greatness in the sense that he would actually do good by being obedient to the Father. Obedient to the Father. So Lord Ram presents many good qualities for us. For example, love, duty, as we talked earlier, obedience, patience, justice, and compassion, just to name a few. Now, each one of these qualities have certain activities involved with them. For example, loving activities involve care for others, caring for others first, that is being selfless, putting oneself first, being empathetic, that is caring about someone else's feelings, especially when they're hurting, being understanding, and being ready to help. Love also involves being straightforward, not telling stories that are not truthful. And of course, that also means that you have to be truthful at all times. Actually, it's very easy to be truthful. It's very consistent to be truthful. If one is not truthful and they tell a story which is not true, then sometimes when a situation comes up again, they are at risk of not remembering what they said the first time. And now they may tell another story to cover the other story, and then all of a sudden there's all these stories that are pastimes, literally, for borrow the word, that are not really consistent, and one's reputation may be soiled that way. So love involves telling the truth, but we have to be actually quite mature about telling truth, because sometimes we say things in confidence, and confidence, saying things in confidence, has timing associated with it. Sometimes there's a way to say it, or a time to say it, and sometimes a time to hold back, but not tell a lie. No. Lord Ram was definitely truthful. Now, as far as duty goes, another quality of love, the example was the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna and Arjuna. And Krishna was urging Arjuna to fight on principle. This was going to be a war for justice, a war that was in fact the right thing to do, because evil had just pervaded literally the earth, and it had to be trampled on or removed. Therefore, Krishna was on the side of Dharma, as were the Pandavas. Arjuna was looking at those who were on the other side, those who were his well-wishers, his teachers, grandfather Bhishma, all fighting, were going to fight against him if he actually was going to involve himself in a war. So he was perplexed, and he started asking questions, and Krishna's explanation was obviously what's in Bhagavad-Gita that we all benefit from. But in many times in the conversation that Krishna was having with Arjuna, he was urging Krishna to fight. He was urging Arjuna to fight. Now, why? Fight means killing, and nobody enjoys a situation where someone is killed, especially if it's a family member. But it wasn't like, Srila Prabhupada explains, it wasn't like Krishna wanted Arjuna to just kill. He wanted Arjuna to do his duty. And Arjuna is a Kshatriya. He's a warrior, very experienced and trained, dedicated warrior. And the situation had come up that there was going to be war. And so Krishna was urging Arjuna to do his duty, because if he didn't do his duty, he would be looked at as a coward if he stayed away from his duty. And he would actually be quite unpopular, and his reputation would be soiled. So part of having good qualities is doing your duty. And of course, in the temple, we have different duties and so on, and we have to do it from the bottom of our hearts. That's what Krishna watches. It's not so much the quality of the service that's done, because we have imperfect senses. We can only achieve up to a certain point, good work, but the intention the service intention is always important. The intention has to be good. So no matter what happens, if the service is done perfectly or not, if the intention is good, that's what Krishna looks for. So in all services, we should put our best foot forward, as they say in American jargon. Best foot forward means do the best that we can. Always the best that we can. Okay? So that also represents love for devotees and love for the Godhead. Now, patience. That's a big one. In this country, much is done with the mode of passion. Everything has to be done fast. It's very difficult to wait for a computer that takes its sweet time to open or to boot. But it's part of life. We have to deal with it. Now, that's in material life. In this particular planet, it operates by mode of passion, for the most part, non-devotees. But devotees are supposed to operate with the mode of goodness. And that requires patience. When a devotee is initiated or they come to Krishna consciousness, and first, of course, their faith is important. They have to have strong faith. Now, when they associate with devotees who are fixed up, that would help them also to increase their faith in the process, in the royal path of devotion. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets guru. At some point, bhajan kriya kicks in. So first, it's faith, and then sadhusanga, association of devotees, and then bhajan kriya, where the devotee now gets the seed of devotion. A spiritual master initiates the devotee. Now he's a disciple, and now he's connected to the parampara, albeit at the bottom, but still now connected to the parampara and have an opportunity to go back to Godhead. So the process of purification begins. Now, purification doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes we are impatient in thinking, well, I've got a spiritual master. I'm doing everything I'm asked for. I'm doing my very best. Therefore, how come I'm not getting the kind of taste that people say is so wonderful? When people have talked about it, I've never experienced 15 years now, I haven't experienced it. Why? Well, nah. Remember, we are in the earth. The earth is, or we are on the earth actually. It is in part of the material world. And anybody that comes to the earth, it's not a time that Krishna was pleased with them. It says in the Shastra, we envied Krishna. We envied Krishna because Krishna has all the marbles, so to speak. And sometimes because he gets so much attention, in fact, he's the center of attention in the spiritual world. Somebody thinks, oh, but why is it that he's getting all the attention? How come I don't get the attention? Something about Krishna maybe, well, I wish I had that. Now that kind of consciousness is the consciousness of envy. And then we're put in the material world. So when we're put in the material world, it's not a wonderful situation. This place is, we'll call it what it is, deal. The material world is a house of correction. So if we are here, and we are not from the spiritual world as those who are coming to help us get out, but we are actually prisoners here, then we shouldn't expect that everything is going to be wonderful overnight. We are fortunate that Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara have connected us with Krishna consciousness, a way to get back to Godhead, to our original position, original constitutional position as a servant of a servant of a servant. And this is how we become happy, internally happy. The soul is happy when we are serving the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, we have been here lifetime after lifetime, some of us millions of lifetimes. And so we've accumulated all kinds of so-called normal material lifestyle, but actually it is counter or against the spiritual rule of law. And therefore, we need purification. Sansara dava nalalida loka. In Shastra also same thing. So, Lord, the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart, there's so much dust accumulated for years and years and years. So we are admitting our hearts have accumulated all kinds of dirt for years and years and years. Now, when somebody starts cleaning dirt that's accumulated, the layers of dirt, how is it going to get clean overnight? It's going to take some time. And so yes, purification would come, and we will in fact begin to feel the joy that comes from being a devotee. But it just doesn't happen overnight. Our minds would say, yes, I take to this process, I believe in this process. That can be done instantly, mentally. But the work, which involves cleaning up the bad habits, that takes time. Therefore, a devotee has to be patient to go through the process, be with other devotees, learn from them the good habits, get away from the bad habits, especially being offensive or gossiping or criticizing. That one, it has to go. It definitely has to go. It's not allowed in the spiritual world, so we shouldn't live like that. So over time, then, it takes quite a few years, but don't worry about the years. Just keep working and associating with devotees and chanting and chanting and chanting with better and better attention. You focus on the Lord. Involve as many of the senses in the chanting process as possible. Meaning that when you speak the holy name, then of course your voice is there and your ears will also hear. So then you have two senses, voice or your mouth and then your ears. But you also look at something that will remind you of Krishna when you're chanting. Even sometimes devotees take a piece of paper and write the Hare Krishna mantra on it and look at it. So that your eyes are also looking at it, your ears are hearing, and your mouth is speaking. The more senses you involve in the Hare Krishna mantra, the better off you are. And slowly, Krishna will purify us. So it takes patience. So no matter what we're being told now, fast life, fast this, fast that, better, quicker processes with our computer and so on, devotee life is deliberate, but it takes time. Now, another quality that Lord Ram represents is justice. Justice. In the Christian religion, they say you reap what you sow. We talk about karma. Same thing, pretty much. Now that I'll tell you a story. So many of you know Duryodhana's father, Dhritarashtra. He was blind. He was blind. He was bypassed because he was blind when the time came to appoint a king, and his younger brother Pandu was given that. So in his heart of hearts, he didn't really like the idea that he was older, but the king, the reigning, the kingdom was given to the care of Pandu. Now, this thought bothered him for a while. And so when he had the opportunity one time, he asked Krishna, so why was I born blind? Now the details are there, the mother at that time was afraid of the way Vyasadeva looked. He looked really, he hadn't cleaned himself in a while because he was going through some, he had a certain vow that he was following. And so the mother gets scared, closed the eyes, and the child was born blind. But that's not all, though. Dhritarashtra was in fact living a situation that he had committed 50 lifetimes before. So Krishna explained to him, so why are you blind? Well, Krishna says, 50 lifetimes ago, you were a hunter. And in the forest, just for play, for target practice, you saw a nest belonging to a bird, a mother bird. You didn't know how many little birds were in there, but there were little birds in there. There were 100 of them. And you, as a hunter, shot an arrow with fire at the tip of it, a flaming arrow, into the nest. And the nest caught fire. The mother bird flew away, but the mother bird was blinded by the fire. The nest caught on fire and all the 100 birds were burned to death. That's what you did 50 lifetimes ago. So basically, Krishna was telling him that the time had come for him, this lifetime, in that lifetime he was in, 50 lifetimes later, to go through the chastisement, the reprimand for what he did. So that's why first he was blind, because the mother bird was blinded. And you can imagine a bird that is flown and now she can't see. How do you land on a branch of a tree? No, you're going to crash into the tree because you can't see. And it was difficult. So from that point on, that bird's life was very difficult until she died. all the 100 little birds died. And we know what happened in the Battle of Kurukshetra. All 100 sons of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, they also died. So it was payback time. Now, one more thing. He, as the one hunter, caused the death of 100 birds. Therefore, Bhim, the one Pandava, caused the death of all 100 sons also. Not all the Pandavas. Bhima killed all 100 sons, including Duryodhana, the last one, that was left unable to walk and to bleed slowly to death. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful how we relate to each other. Always relate in such a way that you don't let somebody else get upset. You have to be careful. Now, when it comes to parents chastising the children, well, that's guidance. That's a different story. But we're talking about adults. As children, you also should behave nicely towards, I see some children again, behave nicely towards each other and care for each other. But the point is, don't be offensive. Offensive means don't say things that will hurt somebody else or do things that will hurt somebody else. And don't do things that hurt yourself either, because you don't own your body. Krishna owns everything, which means even your body belongs to Krishna. So you have to treat your body nicely. Good health and good exercise and everything that you know. If you're a kid, you have more energy, but fine. Be careful not to hurt yourself, because that's not good. Now, the final thing about Lord that we have here, by the mercy of my Guru and Srila Prabhupada, Lord Ram also represents compassion. Compassion, care for others, how people are feeling. And he makes his decision about what he does based on people, how they're feeling, those who are around him. A number of activities happened in the Dandakaranya forest, which was the forest that Lord Ram had to go to with Sita and Lakshman for 14 years. There were already sages who were going through their own tapasya at the Dandakaranya forest. So they saw Lord Ram. Now, Lord Ram was very, very attractive. And so, not surprisingly, the sages were male-bodied, but they were attracted to the Lord. The Lord is attractive. Krishna is all attractive. The incarnation of Krishna. So, they were attracted to the Lord, but there was something weird about the attraction. They felt the attraction. This is in the Gaga Samhita, by the way. They felt the attraction to Lord Ram like a woman gets attracted to a man. Now here they are, sages going through tapasya, and they are obviously living a life of taking very little and not being so connected with the material energy. And still, they see the Lord, they see Sita, they see Lakshman, they know Ram, and they're very, very attracted to Ram, like a girlfriend situation, like they were women. So they were quite concerned about it, and they told Lord Ram, this is how we're feeling towards you. Lord Ram was very compassionate. Of course, you would, on the face of it, say it was wrong. It was wrong. How can a man be having feelings for another man, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like a woman has a feeling for a man? But still, the Lord, knowing their hearts and knowing that they were actually genuine and they were quite confused in the way they were feeling, he told them that, well, you cannot marry me, you're obviously men, that's one, but I can fulfill your feelings for you in the next yuga. So this yuga that they were in was Treta Yuga. Ramayana occurred in Treta Yuga. So the next yuga, Dwapara, that was Krishna and Balaram that came. Krishna and Balaram were in Vrindavan. They were gopis that were related to him in that mood of conjugal relationship. So what happened was those sages that were attracted to the Lord were in fact born in Vrindavan, and they became gopis. And so the Lord fulfilled their desire by them becoming gopis relating to Krishna. So this is what happened there. Now, also in the Dandakaranya forest, there was a situation that had happened in the heavenly planets, and Lord Ram showed compassion to end this. What was the situation? Well, there was some activity in the mode of passion between Ahelia. Ahelia is a wife of Gautam Muni. Ahelia and Indra. Now, Lord Indra related to Ahelia, obviously against good judgment, when Gautam Muni had actually gone to perform austerities. Now, Gautam Muni had a lot of power, so he could also see what was going on even from where he was standing, or he was performing his austerities. So he showed up back home and confronted the two of them. Now, he cursed Indra, and he also cursed his wife, Ahelia. And so Ahelia became a rock, but he became a rock at the Dandakaranya forest. And so when Lord Ram got there, then Lord Ram was able to liberate her. So she got out of that body of rock or stone. Indra was also cursed, and he was cursed rather heavily. I wouldn't even get into that because he was the one that came to deceive Ahelia, made himself look like Gautam Muni. So this was compassion that he showed, Lord Ram. Ravana, on the other hand, represented lust, gross and subtle lust. Gross lust, of course, we are in our four regulated principles. We should stay away from illicit sex, because gambling, intoxication, and meat eating. So that's part of it. Gross lust. Subtle lust is attraction to power and domination of other people, taking what is not yours. And we know that Ravan stole Sita. Sita was not Ravan's consort. Sita was not Ravan's wife, but Ravan took her anyway, and kept her in Lanka for a year. Now, Lord Ram, being very much hurt by what Ravan did, went after Ravan, but with help from other devotees and demigods who took birth as monkeys, who helped Lord Ram finally to go to Lanka and defeat Ravan. And today, Vijayotsava is the actual day, the anniversary where Lord Ram killed the demon Ravan. So we should remember that good triumphs over evil, as long as Krishna is in fact the owner of material and the spiritual worlds. No matter what happens, of course, it's the demons that act in the material world, they can't act in the spiritual world, they won't be allowed to. Still, whatever they plan, the Lord is the cause of all causes, and the Lord always protects his devotee. In Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, Arjuna, declare boldly, Name Bhakta Pranashati, my devotee never perishes. So even though we have COVID-19 in a situation now, in this earth, a pandemic, we're wearing masks. We never thought it would be happening like that, but that's the material one in Kali Yuga. We're going through this. But in the end, there will be Krishna. Krishna's hand will be triumphant. Will give us triumph at the very end. We can rest assured. And if we take the process seriously, the chanting of Hare Krishna, the hearing, and not being offensive, then we have a very good chance of going back to Godhead after we leave this body. Hare Krishna. So, at the time that Ravan has been vanquished, we also have to pray to Krishna to help vanquish our weaknesses, the lower nature. So as Ravan is removed, our wrongdoing and our wrongful tendencies can also be removed, and that obviously would mean purity, and that also would mean a chance to earn the mercy to go back to Godhead after this body. Hare Krishna. So I'll read the translation again. I have it here, you don't have to pull it up unless you want to. It says, due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his plenary extensions, appeared in the family of Maharaj Ikvaku as the Lord of his internal potency, Sita. Under the order of his father, Maharaj Dasharatha, he entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother, Ravan. Ravan, who was very materially powerful, with 10 heads on his shoulders, committed a great offense against him and was ultimately vanquished. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So I guess the moderator can talk. I'm thinking maybe unmute your phones, ask questions, but this is my first time, so I'd rather.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Krishna's mercy.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Before we go into questions, and devotees can think about the questions and raise their hand or text me in the text box. Before we go into that, just a couple of announcements that I'll do because otherwise people then start leaving. So this coming Wednesday, we will continue with our 10 offenses against the holy name with Das Gadadhar Prabhu, which will be on Wednesday. It's the 7th offense. And then also today, yesterday, one of our very senior Prabhupada disciple, as you all know, Yashwamati Nandan Prabhu left his body, and we have talked about it, we have all prayed about it, but since we're all together, I think usually we do 1 minute of silence, but it's best to chant for him, for the departed soul. So maybe we can all unmute and 3 times loudly chant for Yashwamati Nandan Prabhu. So let's unmute and chant together. Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Krishna
Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama, Hare
Rama,
Hare
Rama Rama,
Rama
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
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 Krishna,
Rama,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare
Rama,
Krishna
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Bhaktivinoda
Hare
Prabhuji
Hare
ki.
Rama.
Jai.
And then also, let's also wish today's Satish Prabhu's birthday. Satish Prabhu, if you can come on the screen. So we can also wish him. All of us can unmute and just sing Hare Krishna. If he can hear us, if he's still there. Satish Prabhu, are you there? All right, we can come back to him, Prabhuji. All right, so any questions, anybody? Okay, we have one question in the chat box, and I'll read it. Just 1 second. Thank you for your class. You mentioned the pastimes of why Dhritarashtra became blind and received his karma 50 lifetimes later. Should we understand that giving suffering to birds or killing birds is on the same level as giving the same suffering to humans?
Hare Krishna. It's a very good question. Some people will argue that no. And some people will argue, yeah. But the point is the intention. See, the soul at that time, 50 lifetimes ago, did not have to kill birds. If he wanted to kill for sometimes, and they do, the Kshatriya, sometimes they will go into field forest, but he wasn't just a Kshatriya. It says that he was a hunter. He was a hunter. So if he was hunting for food, how much flesh would birds give a person? And birds are so little. We don't even eat meat, but even just to consider that, if he just wanted something, as a matter, if he was a meat eater, let's just say he's a meat eater, because it wasn't saying that he was a devotee. To kill of all things, you see a nest and you shoot an arrow into the nest, cause the nest to fire, and kill birds. uselessly, that was a wicked thing to do. So we all have the same form of soul. The soul is Satchitananda. The birds also have Satchitananda. If it's not intended, you find no use of doing such a thing, then the punishment should be heavy. Okay, it's not that the birds, but this is something that he didn't really need to do. In other words, he killed them uselessly. He killed them uselessly. That's why the punishment came. Of course, this is Parabda and Aparabda karma. Sometimes, the person goes through so many other things too that they have to take different births for and different shapes of the 8,400,000 type bodies to go through whatever they have to pay for what they reaping what they sowed. And so it turned out that he had to wait 50 lifetimes before a situation came where adding his good deeds to his bad deeds. And his good deeds were there, obviously, because he got to be a prince living luxuriously. But this situation had come where, in that lifetime, involving the Mahabharata, he was going to have 100 sons. He was going to have 100 progeny from him as a father. Therefore, that was time to pay back. So you may look at it and say, well, the 100 human beings were killed. Well, the point of it is, compared to 100 birds, 100 human beings, yeah, well, you can argue that the soul level, the bird, same soul as a human. But the point, though, is how uselessly he killed the birds. That's what made the punishment such that he will learn his lesson, that he will suffer from his 100 sons dying. That was the real point. The intention, the intent behind it. That's why. Not so much the body of a bird versus the body of a human being killed. If you get the point. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone else?
God's mercy. Krishna's mercy. Any other question?
Anybody?
Okay, it's also 8:30, so.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Thank you very much for a wonderful class. Happy
Krishna's
Dasara.
mercy. Jai.
Um,
Okay.
Prabhuji, I was wondering, like you was explaining that how important to lead our life without offense. It is so important to, especially for Krishna consciousness practitioners. So I was just wondering, you also mentioned one important point, we should not upset ourselves as well. So I feel this is very, very important thing. May I request you to, could you throw more light on this subject as practitioners?
It's very important. So we have three modes: mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. So what we were describing is the mode of ignorance. It's described in Bhagavad-Gita. Srila Prabhupada gives nice purports about it. Harming oneself or harming someone else, that's mode of ignorance. Now we can see harming someone else easily, right? If you do something to another entity that's not good, that's definitely mode of ignorance. So now your question is about harming oneself. Well, we have these physical bodies. And the physical bodies are not really ours. It belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. Therefore, we have to keep it in good shape as best as we can. It also means that if we know there's something bad and we do to the body anyway, that is harming the body. For example, smoking. Now, I'm not saying you do, but it's an example. People do smoke. And they will say, oh, well, my excuse is I'm addicted to smoking and this nicotine, I can't get away from it. The point is, you are harming the body. The body that you are in a human body, I'm in a human body, this escape body, the body that you can understand Krishna and chant the holy name, this type of body. There's very few like that compared to the rest of it. 400,000 out of 8,400,000. So when you get this type of human body, you're supposed to use it, especially because you're supposed to use it to the best of your ability to take advantage of the jail that we're in and go back to Godhead. So if you don't only not chant, but you do things to harm the physical body that you have, then that's acting in the mode of ignorance. So drinking, smoking, taking things you know are not good for the body, but you take it anyway. Especially Krishna says that our diet should be, we say vegetarian, but sometimes the other sannyasis coined Krishnatarian bodies. I mean Krishnatarian type diet because we don't eat everything vegetarian. Some things are in the mode of fasting, we don't eat those. So our diet is based on what Krishna says that we should eat. So if we stay away from those things and do the negative things, then we're harming our bodies. Drinking, for example, having a background in chemistry, alcohol is absolutely horrible. It not only does it give initial, loss of equilibrium, people get drunk and they say things they shouldn't be saying, all of that, they get so-called uninhibited. But later on, when the alcohol gets into the liver, it gets changed into another type of chemical that's even more harmful. It's called acetaldehyde, even more harmful. So then, on the one hand, people think they're having their sense gratification, and the Baba doesn't call it enjoyment, sense gratification, but actually they're harming their bodies. And therefore, that's moral ignorance, they're going to pay for it. That's what we meant by, so you got to be careful. As much as possible, be health conscious. Not to be the prettiest person or the strongest person, but to be able to serve Krishna and Krishna's devotees properly. So they're healthy body, but what you know is actually negative for the body or harmful to the body, don't put it in. Don't put it in, because then you have it. That's also more the ignorance. Hare Krishna.
So, bro, just one additional point to this thing. So this is a bodily thing, like a. Is it sometimes I feel like it's something inside also, like in very subtle level, that also harms our consciousness. That
That's
maybe
true.
yeah.
Yeah,
That
I talked about the physical, but
yeah
negative thoughts, negative
yeah
thoughts, negative, not negative thoughts, but negative words, insults, those kind of things. Not only are they bad for the person that is receiving that or is intended for, but it also pollutes the mind and it pollutes the atmosphere also, because thoughts have form. You know that sometimes when you stare intensely at somebody for a while, they turn around and look at you, without
yeah
you having said anything. You transmit like that. People think that it's just fake. It's not fake at all, because you can look.
yeah
The person, it's always, no matter how many people are there, the person that you looked at for a long time is the one that's going to turn around and look at you because they can feel the vibes. It comes, right? So thoughts have form. So if you think negatively, it actually weakens the person. One time, my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj, did one exercise in New Jersey. He was, not New Jersey, New Vrindavan. I'm sorry. I'm actually letting you guys in New Jersey. So New Vrindavan, he had one devotee come up to the front. And this is a workshop, so a lot of devotees were there, almost like 100 devotees in the room in New Vrindavan. First, he said, um, I'm going to do something, and I can demonstrate a little bit since we have a video here. But you, he said, the devotees, you think as negatively as you can come with all kinds of things negatively towards this guy. It doesn't matter you know him, just think of him in a very negative way. And he had the guy stretch out his arms like that, and Maharaj was pushing down on his arms like this. So the man stretched his arms, and Maharaj is on the other side, trying to push down. And when they thought negatively, Maharaj pushed his body down, his arm down easily. Just boom, he's weak. Then he said, now, turn around, so we're going to do it again. This time, think all kinds of positive thoughts, which is easy for devotees, of course. Positive thoughts about this person. This person is going to go by Godhead. I wish him well. All these people. And he did the same thing. And he couldn't push the guy's foot, the arm down. He could not. So the positive thoughts strengthened the guy, and the negative thoughts weakened him. So it was obvious right there, the thoughts now, no words. They just had them just think negatively. Yeah, he got weak, and think positively, he was strengthened. So it does have an effect. It does have an effect. So when we think negatively, that is also moral ignorance. Now in Kali Yuga, we have this freedom, a little bit of freedom, that as long as you haven't said negative things, if you think negative things, you may be forgiven. This is because there's so much negativity in the air anyway. A lot of
Yeah.
people are using swear words. Yeah, so we have a little break there. Just like the rounds, we don't do 64 rounds like Vaishnav, we do 16 rounds, which is only 1/4 of it. Yeah, still, Papa going to give us only 25% of what we're supposed to do. Normally, when you go to school, you get 25% in an exam. That's F. But still, we're allowed to go with this minimum of 25. You can go back to Godhead. So yeah, it's there. But the thing is, and I remember my Guru saying this, we have to be careful about our thoughts. Because they say you think before you speak. So we have to be careful about thoughts because they may become our negative. Negative thoughts may make us begin to say negative words. And then negative words can translate into negative actions.
Yeah.
Okay. And then from our negative actions, if people copy you, they see you doing things and people are copycats, they all copy that. And then a bunch of people do the same thing. Now it's become the culture of that particular society. They do negative things. And, do I need to tell you? A whole lot of people are doing negative things because they see so-called popular artists doing negative things and they follow the same thing. And the society becomes degraded. And so we're helping Kali Yuga to go down, 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 down. Okay, so yeah, these are all mode of ignorance. I'm glad you brought up the subtle part because I talked about the gross initially. Hare Krishna. Very good question.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy. So, any other questions?
Prabhuji, you are on mute.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Sorry. Thank you. The question is, can you please explain the effects of garlic and onion on human body chemically so that we need to abstain from it?
You wanted to know it chemically? In the human body, that's biochemistry. I'm not a biochemist, I tell you. But the point that we have been told to stay away from garlic, onion, and mushroom. Garlic, onion, and mushroom. I have GOM, garlic, onion, mushroom. Now, why? Well, devotees are supposed to materially live in the mode of goodness. Now we have our chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which puts us in the mode of transcendence because the mantra is from the spiritual world. So we chant, then we connect that way. Now, ordinarily, in our material activity, we're supposed to act in the mode of goodness. Garlic, mushroom, and onion have the subtle activity of pulling us into the mode of passion. It increases our passionate aspect. This is what has been explained to me, and that's why we're supposed to relate to each other in the mode of goodness, and we're eating something that pushes us into the mode of passion. Well, then that's the wrong thing to eat then. It's just that simple. Therefore, we should stay away from those. And there are substitutes. Rather than have onion, you can have hing or asafoetida, like that. And garlic, well, normally not in food, so you stay away from it. We can go on a little bit more, but generally, yeah, because now garlic can be medicinal. When somebody needs it for medicine purposes, then yes, yeah, because health comes first. But regular as food, no, because it increases our passionate nature. And so does mushroom, garlic, onion, and mushroom. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, would you mind sharing how coming from Ghana, then doing your PhD, and coming where and you met Maharaj or the devotees, and what attracted you to Krishna consciousness?
Okay, we'll try to take the short version. So I was 100% kami when I came here. Nothing about Krishna consciousness. Came to Boston. The school is called Brandeis University. Around this area, some people may know of the school. It was a very good school. I mean, I found out later on. I was just, working hard as an undergraduate in Ghana, got a good degree. I mean, good grades, and took the GRE and TOEFL and all those tests. They took my transcript in and they offered me admission to the school. Among 3 other schools, I just chose that one on advice of a chemistry professor that I met earlier. Actually, I've gone through a lot. There's one chemistry professor that came from the United States to Ghana on 1 year sabbatical leave. Okay. And he decided that sabbatical leave means he came to Ghana, he wasn't doing any research. He just came, he wanted to, move around and get to know Africa. He chose Ghana. White American. And he came to my school at that time, called Cape Coast University, when I was a freshman. And he decided to get extra money and also to get a nice place, because in Ghana, if you teach, they give you a accommodation, nice place for the professors. So that was an easy way for him to live in Ghana. So then he took up just teaching, and I was in the class as Krishna would arrange it. And I did quite well in organic chemistry. So then, when the following year, which is here they call it sophomore, but in Ghana, second year, he asked me, in second year is when you choose your major. He asked me, did I choose chemistry? I said, yeah. Then he said, okay, well, come to my office. So I went to his office, and he suggested that I do a PhD. I said, Professor Hendrickson, I'm only thinking about doing well in bachelor's and then doing master's. He said, no, you're young. At that time, it was in my 20s. You could do very well, and the people in the United States, they want somebody who will stay in there and do research longer. So I said, all right, if you say so. I didn't know anything. I was just in Ghana. So he started the whole thing about me doing a PhD. And the rest of it is history. We did the exams and finished, took the transcript there, and I came in 1978 in the winter from Ghana, in the winter time, January, right in the snow. Oh, it was such a big shock. Anyway, I helped myself. I talked to myself. I said, this is a horrible place to be, but there are people still living, and if they can live, so I suppose I could also adjust to it at some point, So anyway, so finish all of this. Finished in 1984, and then that's when a number of things were happening in my life. 85, 86, 87. There were things that happened to me that should have caused my death, literally. Being driving late at night and going to sleep behind the wheel. I mean, that's asking for trouble. But somehow I was saved one weekend after another. Every time I would join my friends, I was up in northern Massachusetts, Andover, and I was going to Boston, where my friends were there. And when coming back, I'd be tired. And so I was saved from every single one of them. So then I began to think, now here I'm coming now, this Christian. So I began to pray, if Lord, you're saving me, there must be something that you want from me to do. And so I asked, what do you really need me to do? And at the same time, I had all kinds of questions that Christians couldn't answer. And so I wanted answers to that too. So finally, I left the Catholic Church, went to other Christian churches, then to the Baha'i faith, then to Buddhism, all looking for answers, then to Islam, and then finally, at Islam, there was an African-American woman. I had moved from Massachusetts to Maryland at the time, Washington, D.C. And this woman gave me 3 cassettes, lectures by Bhakti Swami. And all kinds of answers that I wanted popped up. All my questions, many of them that I've been seeking from, but he was speaking conversationally from Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. But all the answers were there. And I was so excited, so I went looking for him. And the rest is history. He gave me Science of Self-Realization to read and come ask him questions. So I did that. And that's how I started vegetarianism and so many things, and found out the Buddha was the incarnation of Krishna, even though Buddhists don't know. They don't believe in God. All of that is in Science of Self-Realization. And I got excited about it, and he guided me because he himself started as a Baptist minister, Christian, and then he came to Christian consciousness. So it was easier for him to guide me as a Christian there. And so I stayed with him when he wanted to leave, come to Gitanagri. My wife and I were married at the time, and we came and served him, lived with him and served him, and I helped him with his audio ministry and whatever service. I was very excited to be with him, and I learned a lot and got chastised a lot too, both. And so that's who I am now. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you so much.
Jai. Krishna's miss. Jai.
Anybody else? Any other question? Comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Go Shri Prabhupada.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Were you in Baltimore on January 1st?
Was I in Baltimore on January 1st? I think so. I don't know.
Yes,
Um,
there are
and if I
new.
was there, I probably was playing the keyboard too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Both.
well then I said yes then because I take my keyboard there. Yeah, that is still, yeah, that's me.
Yeah. A
I made a
wonderful
connection.
program.
Oh, okay. I love Baltimore. They spoiled me so much. I did like my second home. I go there a lot. In fact, last week I was there Sunday.
Sunday.
Even though,
Yeah.
yeah, I had to wear the mask and preach and all that. Well, anyway, so
At
yeah, I
that
go to
time
Baltimore.
we were there.
Yeah,
So yeah. Prabhuji, I
Hare
have a
Krishna.
question. I have a
Sure.
question. Ramcharan Prabhuji asked about, and you said about the negativity, right? I have following question. Like sometimes negativity comes from others, even within also. So
Yeah.
how can we control, and it should not affect on spirituality and
We talk
mental
about negativity from others.
others and within also.
Okay, you want both of them. All right. Um, so Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis, he wrote a book called Mana Shiksha, Mana, mind, Shiksha, instructions. So instructions to the mind. Very good book, very small book, and very few books that I've seen. In fact, the only one that I've seen that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote the purports. So you can imagine the weight of the book. It's a small book, but it depends what it carries. Raghunath Das Goswami writing his realizations, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur writing the purports. Now, in the purports, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was talking about the mind, being very careful about the mind. And in particular, he was talking about duplicity. Duplicity, dual. In other words, saying one thing or speaking, as they say, speaking out of both sides of the mouth. One thing here and another thing concerning the same thing, but 2 different interpretations. Okay, duplicity. We have to be very careful, and that comes from not someone else. It comes from us. There was, I won't mention the place. There was one particular place that my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj, was GBC for, and that sort of stuff happened so badly there that he actually quit. The only place that he quit the position is GBC, because depending on who devotees were speaking to, they would say one thing about the situation, and it's another devotee they're speaking to, they speak a different thing about the situation. Same situation, a different thing. And so a good many of them were not straightforward. You can't do that to the mind because the Lord, to ourselves, because the Lord is in the heart. The Paramatma doesn't miss anything. So we can't deceive ourselves in thinking that, oh, we can say it like this and get away with it. No. The Lord, as Maharaj says, he keeps a tight score. Everything that the devotee is doing, first of all, we haven't said this. When you are a devotee, Yamaraj doesn't take account of your good and bad deeds anymore. The devotee account, spiritual and material bank account, is handled by Krishna as Paramatma in the heart. Non-devotees are still cared for by Yamaraj because they go there for whatever they are. But devotees are cared for by their accounts are noted by the Lord in the heart, Paramatma. Now, Paramatma doesn't make any mistakes, as you well know. So we got to be very careful what we think and what we say. We should always have positive, positive energy thrown at everybody. Direct positive energy. If you direct negative energy, it's like throwing garbage at them. If you criticize and say something negative, and it's like subtly throwing negative things at them. Now, if you look at physically throwing garbage at someone, who would even think of doing something like that? Absolutely not. But we do that mentally. So this is also about Maharaj's example, throwing garbage at them when you say negative things, or when we say negative things to them. So we have to be very, very careful. So why did I say Mana Shiksha? Instruct the mind. Raghunath Das Goswami says, rather than think of negative things, think about the pastimes of Radha Krishna and the gopis and how wonderful that is. Because it changes your mind immediately to something very positive, and not only positive, transcendental. Because the pastimes are transcendental. So it can't be better than that. So you think more about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pastimes. How? Well, it's not so difficult. Play the pastimes. Play it on your TV. Hmm? Watch those kind of movies. Watch Ramayana. We were talking about. Watch Ramayana. When people they've done wonderful acting there. Sometimes in Hindi, sometimes in English captions. It's there. Hmm? Watch Mahabharat. Hmm? Listen to now I discovered one thing on YouTube. A devotee has recorded the whole Bhagavad-Gita. Very nice voice, very nice voice. English translation the whole way through. Now, of course, we always take Bhagavad-Gita. We are fortunate to see Prabhupada practically every text he has purpose to make us understand it more deeply. Sometimes you want to hear the story too. And we see Krishna, his trend, the way he's going and answering the questions that Arjun is asking him. Srila Prabhupada has made us very, 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 very fortunate by putting his realizations in purport in Bhagavad Gita. But then I was listening, like, I'm cooking or sometimes, and I do know how to cook, cooking and sometimes anything around and that I'm not concentrating much on. And, the TV is playing sometimes chanting of Srila Prabhupada's chanting. I have one that I particularly made of Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Maharaj chanting. They didn't chant at the same time. I just have a recording studio, so I put one and put the other and put them together. So it's like both of them are chanting at the same time. Now it's on YouTube. It says chanting Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Swami. You can just find it easily. And the picture on there is Srila Prabhupada playing the harmonium. You can't miss it. That picture, yeah. And then we get that playing. Awesome. And right after that, when you do YouTube, when it finishes, then we play other, japa. So the whole time, the atmosphere is like that. Even when you're going to sleep, you can read something spiritual. And sometimes my wife does that. He would just turn the computer on and real low volume, very low volume, but set it so that it is continuous. And what's continuous? The japa. So the whole night, especially when she's kind of, uptight because there's so much responsibility. She's the mother, temple president, is being trained for GBC, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So she's very busy. Sometimes, she stays up a little later and she goes to bed and the mantra is playing. So that our minds are always involved with the mantra. And the mantra is Lord Chaitanya said Krishna has put all his energies in the mantra, so you can't go wrong with that. So you do need to param disvanarvatite. Replace the lower with the higher. The higher is the transcendental. So hear about Krishna. Sing Krishna songs, sing bhajans. You don't have to be a perfect singer. You just sing your heart out. Sometimes some tunes come, maybe non-devotee tunes. And sometimes, it bothers me sometimes some tune that I really don't want to sing, some song, it has non-devotee words, and it comes out of my mind, and it wouldn't go. So then I change it, I put the mantra and replace the words with the Maha Mantra and sing the same tune. If you can do that, so basically now the tune wouldn't bother you, but now you're chanting with the Maha Mantra. So there's so many ways that you can in fact do. So flood your mind with Krishna consciousness. Flood your mind with Krishna consciousness in many ways, and then you'll be fine. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Krishna's mercy. Jai. Guru's mercy. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any other question? We look forward to, once we are out from the lockdown, we'd love to have you over in person.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd love to come. It depends. Mataji only knows that play keyboard. So if you want me, you have to ask though if you want me to, because there's also harmonium. But I can bring a keyboard if you want, and just have a nice little Krishna conscious party.
Nice.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
that's what I was trying to tell.
Oh, okay. So I read your mind. Huh? You see how Krishna acts? So I didn't even know you were thinking that way, but I said, oh, okay. So now I said, all right. Well, then, see your temple president, and if he says yes, I will be there with it whenever, Actually, I'm going to next week. You call me to go to Philadelphia, and they always want me to bring a keyboard. If I don't, they say, why didn't you bring? Why are you bring? So I have to go there. Some temples are slowly beginning to open in person. And some of them are You know, so little by little, it depends on the state, obviously, and how the coronavirus is acted on. But believe me, in the end, we'll see Krishna's hand in this whole coronavirus situation. He never misses. He always protects his devotees. So that's the last thing you should worry about. Just do what you're told, 6 feet distancing, sure, mask, on. And let me say one thing about it and stop, and that is, Srila Prabhupada wants devotees to, he said, everywhere in the world, devotees should obey the laws. Okay, that is the material laws, that is. He wants to obey the laws because he does not want people to say, you Hare Krishnas, you don't do this, and we get a bad name. If we get a bad name, we can't make devotees when we got a bad name. And so we always should, so for that reason, even if you don't want to wear a mask, wear the mask anyway. Because not only that it's good sense, but Srila Prabhupada requires that we don't ruin ISKCON's reputation by going against what the states are asking us to do. But in the end, Krishna will cover for us. He never not covers, so not to worry. We'll be fine.